Welcome back, everyone. My name is Patrick. You're watching the Oilers Rundown. Well, that was a rough one last night. The Edmonton Oilers falling to the Seattle Kraken 6-2. And Olivier Rodrigue, definitely a game that he would want back. Calvin Pickard, as Bob Stauffer noted on Oilers Now tonight, is expected to be ready for the regular season. So we should be dealing with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard when the puck drops on October 9th. But you'd still like to see more from Olivier Rodrigue. He definitely had a much stronger season last year, and it is still the preseason, so I don't think everyone should go into full-on panic mode, but he has not looked very strong in the preseason, so hopefully when he goes down to Bakersfield after the regular season begins, that can slowly start to turn. Now, there was a report that came out this morning from the Two Mutts Hockey Podcast that I do want to touch on. Two Mutts has had some definite hits and some definite misses so far in the insider department this summer. They were pretty close on Stan Bowman information, Leon Draisaitl information, but off on Evander Kane and a few other things. So take this following report with a big grain of salt. I mean, these guys certainly have their sources, and I think they do hit on some things like I mentioned, but don't know how accurate all of this report is. Let's take a look. It sounds like the Oilers and Travis Dermott are in talks about signing a deal as of this morning. Let's follow this situation. Josh Brown is an interesting story to follow. He signed a 3-year deal, and he bought a new house in Edmonton a few weeks ago. The coaching staff is high on him. Good guy and good character. We can't see him going to the AHL yet. Ty Emberson hasn't stood out in a huge way for the job to be his, but he will play with Nurse on Friday night in Vancouver from our understanding. The Oilers' blue line is still very much a talking point and will continue to be until something comes along for them to upgrade it. The sense is that this could happen sooner rather than later. Waiting till March isn't likely. Having a strong start is very important. So let's break that down piece by piece. We'll start with Travis Dermott. I think he's done enough to earn a contract from the Edmonton Oilers. Whether or not he wants to sign a two-way contract that could see him possibly start with the Bakersfield Condors is another thing entirely. I believe it was on Mark Spector on Sports 1440 this morning, that could kind of be a death sentence for Travis Dermott's career if he agrees to do a two-way deal and he ends up in Bakersfield and never finds his way back up to the Edmonton Oilers. So something to consider there, but I think Travis Dermott has definitely been one of the better Oilers defensemen. He had a good game last night against Seattle, so if it was me, I would sign him. The Oilers do have to have their rosters in on Monday, so we'll definitely hear before then. When it comes to Josh Brown, I don't think he has done anything to prove that he belongs with the Edmonton Oilers right now. I think he should be on waivers, headed to the Bakersfield Condors, find his game. I mean, I think he was brought in ideally as a number 6 guy, but he's not even a number 7 guy right now from what I've seen. Quite frankly, he just has not done enough to prove to me that he belongs on a team that has Stanley Cup aspirations. So that's great he bought a house. He did sign a 3-year contract, so kind of understandable, but maybe you should wait and find out if you have a place on the team for sure before you buy a house. But I don't know. That's my thought on that. If the coaching staff, management is high on him and they really want to give him a chance, he could remain with the Edmonton Oilers very easily to start the year. Ty Emberson, he hasn't blown me away, but I haven't been hugely disappointed with him either. So maybe asking him to be the number 4 guy is putting too much pressure on him. I mean, you have to perform in the preseason. That is primarily what it's for, to show that you belong on a team or you don't belong on a team. But I don't know. The Oilers are probably a much better team if Ty Emberson is your number 6 guy, not your number 4 guy. But the Oilers, they want to accrue cap space. They want to keep options available to them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Going into the number 4 point, do we see a trade or some kind of other move by the Edmonton Oilers here sooner rather than later? I'd be pretty surprised if the Oilers, who have been giving up a lot of goals in the preseason, and if that translates into the regular season, waiting until March before they address the blue line. I mean, like I said, we all know this is a team with huge Stanley Cup aspirations. They went to Game 7. They were a couple goals away from the Stanley Cup last year. They want that big silver cup, and right now this defense, we all know, is not going to be good enough to get the job done. They certainly have some pieces, and I think Ty Emberson's probably better than what he's shown, but to count on him to be the number 4 guy when I think he's better suited in the bottom pairing, it's definitely a risky proposition. I don't think we see a trade for the Oilers before the season starts. That's probably a little too soon, but if we're getting into November, possibly December, and the Oilers are bleeding goals, I think a trade certainly happens sooner rather than later, like too much suggests. But once you get into the season, I think it's also harder for the Oilers to make trades. So I don't know. They seem to want to go with what they have for now, and I imagine that is how they start the season, but maybe we see something, maybe not major, but a minor move. Bob Stauffer did mention on Oilers Now today the Oilers could have interest in Jacob Magna, who's on the waiver wire. He's a $775K cap hit. Big, but not overly physical. He's a left shot D. He did play, Bob mentioned, with Erik Karlsson when Erik Karlsson was having that amazing year with the San Jose Sharks, so I don't know, maybe he's a guy that could potentially play higher, but when Bob Stauffer and Brendan Escott were discussing the situation on Oilers Now, Brendan Escott made the excellent point that the Oilers have invested time in Travis Dermott. He's got the favor of the coach, management, so if the Oilers already have Travis Dermott here and they're going to sign somebody or try somebody else, I would give the contract to Travis Dermott. I wouldn't be grabbing somebody else off waivers unless you see them as a clear upgrade. They play the right side, which the Oilers really need. Travis Dermott has the ability to play both sides. I don't know if Jacob Magna can, but right now, if the Oilers had to make a choice between the two, I'd go with the guy they already have here in Travis Dermott. We got the final preseason game tomorrow against the Vancouver Canucks. It doesn't look like the Oilers are making any other changes before that game. We expect Darnell Nurse and Ty Emberson to be paired up there. Raphael Lavoie and Noah Philp should both be in. They're both battling for possibly the 12th forward spot, but I think it's the 13th forward spot, as I've talked about over the last few videos. I think Podkolzin, Derek Ryan, Corey Perry have that fourth line somewhat locked up. I'd like ideally to see Derek Ryan, Corey Perry rotating in and out on fourth line right wing and have Noah Philp or possibly Raphael Lavoie joining Vasily Podkolzin and them on the fourth line. So lots still to be figured out here in training camp for the Edmonton Oilers. If you haven't heard, the big documentary Face Off Inside the NHL premieres tomorrow on Amazon Prime. It takes a look behind the scenes of the Stanley Cup Finals, a lot of interesting stuff. There's been a lot of clips out there of Connor McDavid. It's going to be a really interesting behind-the-scenes piece. Like I said, it premieres tomorrow on Amazon Prime, so you can check that out, and I'll have more thoughts on it once I've checked it out. So I think that's all for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Travis Dermott, Josh Brown, Raphael Lavoie, Noah Philp. What would you do with this lineup? Who stays, who goes? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If this is your first visit to the channel and you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing for all the latest Oilers content. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan.